All right. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is David Patrick Carey with Church of the Eternal Logos, and tonight I am going to be talking about living cyborgs and the current reality of biological augmentation. So tonight's stream, you're probably going to notice in the next few months, I'll be doing a lot more streams that are going to be, let's say, transhumanist oriented. And so I've been diving into a lot of my academic research. Obviously, you guys know that that's what my dissertation's really focusing on, is the concept of technologies of transcendence. And this is, therefore, I've been literally trying to consume anything and everything I can in relationship to the religion or spirituality of technology, transhumanist ideas, the spiritual ideas of sort of material transcendence of the world itself, enchanted objects, magic and technology, this book right here, The Religion of Technology, all this types of stuff. And so, sprinkled in some of my usual ortho content, you're going to be noticing that I'll be using a lot of my research in the next few months here to produce content. And tonight, what I want to do is really not present any sort of thesis or argumentation, but really just show you guys the state of biological augmentation or human augmentation. And this is what a cyborg is. And I'm going to be showing you, obviously, voices that are in favor of and sympathetic towards this movement. And cyborgs, again, are a term that was used to describe a partially organic and partially inorganic being. And so it's a mixture of basically a biological organism. And we're going to see that DARPA, for example, the military has a great interest in cyborgs, not only for military soldiers, but also the use of animals. And so I'll be showing you guys that DARPA has funded considerable research creating insect cyborgs, and we can only imagine what those would be used for, animal cyborgs, but also human cyborgs. And so we're going to be getting into people that have already taken that leap into a sort of new ontological state of human existence, meaning they're not entirely biological creatures anymore. And so one example will be artist Neil Harbison, who literally infused an antenna that goes down into his spinal cortex, goes all the way down his spine and comes out of his head, and he's technically colorblind. And so he has this thing dangling in front of his forehead, and it can pick up the colors that are in front of him, and he then experiences them as a sort of sound or vibration within his own body. And this has led to the Cyborg Foundation. This has led to, probably you guys aren't aware of, the Sabathon or the Cybathon. This is the Cyborg Olympics. These things already exist. They are in reality. And we're just going to kind of cover this topic. So we're not going to have a huge opening monologue here tonight. Most of tonight is we're going to be covering articles and looking at, for example, Neuralink. Elon Musk and his famous futuristic company Neuralink is doing research. And I'm going to show you the progression of Neuralink in the research and the, again, mind computer or brain computer interface, which is really the whole orientation of the cyborg, or really the transhumanist idea. Now, transhumanism, and you'll see in some of the future streams that we'll be doing is, one, I want to be talking about the priests of transhumanism and showing you sort of the major movers and shakers, some of which you may be familiar with, some of which you may not be familiar with, but I think it would be useful. Obviously, beyond Harari and the World Economic Forum, I'm talking about the movers and shakers that are actually doing the research in these various university departments, of course, getting money from various government entities. The WEF certainly would be one, billionaires, but of course our military budget, one of the big things with the UK and the US military, they are very, very, very interested in cyborgs and human augmentation. And so human augmentation, the whole worldview, and this to a degree will include transhumanism, reduces the person down to the brain. Well, that's really all we are. And of course, in a worldview where there is no soul, there is no transcendental property of the individual, of course, then what exactly is the individual? And in a reductionist, materialistic approach, of course, they come to the conclusion that we are really just our brain. And so when we think of cyborgs or these various robotic prosthetics that we'll even look at, arms, legs, it's all about hooking these sort of technological creations up to the brain. And really it is. If the science continues further, I mean, we really are a sort of brain in a vat. And if we know how the brain works, basically the future of these sort of robotic prosthetics and the cyborg science is really just to figure out where the brain activity is. And if they can stimulate that, then they can hook that up directly through various electrical impulses, and they can begin rewiring. And we're going to find instances, for example, of the Project Cyborg. This is an academic project. This is not something that is just like haphazard, but Kevin Warwick, one of the leaders in human augmentation, has already augmented himself, of course, putting in chips into his hands and stuff like that. But he went a little bit further and actually hooked up and we'll read about this, he actually hooked up electrodes to his central nervous system. And what that did is he was the first person, and this is a researcher, this is a scientist, he's the first person to sort of put his central nervous system online, meaning he was literally hooked up to the internet. And because they had this access to his central nervous system, they were able to take a prosthetic arm over in the UK, he being in the United States, his central nervous system logged on to the internet, and he could then be tapped in through Bluetooth then into this prosthetic arm, and the arm he could sense whether it was like a pillow or a brick. And the arm then he could have sensations in his central nervous system from a prosthetic arm that was actually over in England. And so this stuff isn't totally, this isn't Star Trek. This is actually really happening. And a lot of the research we'll be looking at all happened before 2020. And so we can imagine what where the world is going afterwards, meaning in 2022, the Great Reset, all this different stuff. So, brain-computer interface is the name of the game in regards to the creation of cyborgs. It's all about the central nervous system and the brain and trying to access brain waves and the electrical impulses through neurons, and sort of hijacking these impulses and taking that electrical signal and then transmuting that into some type of technological response, impulse, whatever it may be. And so we can already see that the sort of anthropology, and if you watch some of these videos, like I watched a presentation of the World Economic Forum today on cyborgs. It's so funny how so much of their rhetoric is couched within a sort of moral helping of the world, right? It's their ethical duty to move forward with these technologies because they're helping deaf people. One of the common euphemisms I've heard over and over again is that, well, cochlear implants, everybody's okay with that. That is a cyborg. And I think it really causes some questions is, well, what is actually a cyborg? Because the people who advocate all this stuff would say, oh, well, glasses make you a cyborg. Hearing aids make you a cyborg. And yet at the same time, they're talking about mapping the entirety of the synaptic connections of the mind. The idea, the principle here is that the mind literally is an emergent property, and that if they could map the entire neuronal structure of the brain and put that into a computer, that essentially, most likely, then you would then be alive in the computer. This is their idea. Now, again, of course, we don't believe in this. We believe in a soul and a transcendental property of man. And so this is all brain, no heart. And it's so interesting. Again, we've talked previously about the archetype of the evil genius. We've talked about the nous. And again, our noetic understanding as Orthodox Christians is that the mind, our noetic activity, isn't just some divorced structure. It's not just our brain activity. There's a reality of the heart. And as this, as I watched so many of the things preparing for today's stream, it's so interesting how the whole motif of this movement, of this transhumanist movement, is that it's going to aid humanity. This is going to make us more human. I heard this over and over, especially from Natasha Vita-Moore, for those of you who know who she is. She's kind of the leader of Humanity Plus. This is the rebranding of transhumanism. It's no longer called transhumanism. It's called Humanity Plus, which obviously you see the presuppositions of the human potential movement, which eventually I need to do a stream just on that, the human potential movement. So all brain, no heart. We see that there is, the transgression of morality and ethics. They come up with these socially constructed forms of ethics and how, we got to be so ethical and how we do all this stuff. Well, during one of the conversations on the World Economic Forum, again, if you put in WEF, Cyborgs, there'll be about a 48-minute presentation in there with 4 different panelists, 3 specifically dealing, 1 a lawyer, and then 2 researchers dealing with these types of technologies. And they talked about, what is so great about this stuff is that we're doing research with the N1 implant. This is having to do with Neuralink. The main implant that they have is called the N1 implant. This is what they've done on, the various forms of monkeys and rats and stuff like that. And showing that, there's girls that are anorexic. And these anorexic girls that we've now realized that if we can find where exactly their anorexia is within their brain structure, that we could then stimulate that and they could have a new sense of self that would divorce them from their concept of themselves as skinny or fat and get them to eat. And so the idea was that they could actually put brain implants, and this was being advocated again on the World Economic Forum. You can watch it yourself. They were advocating that, this is great technology because what we could do, if a girl's anorexic, we could just put a brain implant in and then we can stimulate that center of their brain and she would want to eat. And then we can make her eat. But of course, that also comes to these larger questions, which is questions of control, and one of the other guys mentioned, this is why this stuff is so great because, if somebody's obese, a doctor could just turn off probe their brain, put in an implant, and they could just shut off their desire to eat. it's like, don't you guys see where this is going? But of course they do. They're globalist leaders, and they make jokes about that. So this whole thing is all brain, no heart. The future of man is not a man that's rooted in the heart. And I think this is one of the biggest distinctions, and this is for another topic, but I want to dive eventually in, like I said, the priest of transhumanism, is how narcissistic these people are. They love their credentials and the projects they worked on, and they really do believe that they are fighting the sort of last generational fight against death itself. And so it's so funny that the transhumanists sort of flip. Again, we're Christians. The enemy is death, but Christ conquered death. And yet they then are using their sort of technological prowess to defeat death, as they believe. And so we see this concept of mind is very, very different from our concept of nous. And I think that's why this lack of a morality is why their hearts actually are very darkened, and they don't see the reality in which they're moving towards. People with disabilities have become basically the canvas for the human potential augmentation. And so, like I said, the Cyborg Olympics is basically taking people that have maybe prosthetic arm or a leg or a wheelchair or something, and then what they do is then perform various surgeries and demonstrate the abilities, the capabilities of these cyborg technologies. For example, a person could be in a wheelchair that's totally governed by their brain. They can be in the wheelchair and they can decide which direction to go, where to move, and all this stuff. Isn't this incredible? And so the question is, where do we draw the line? Is a cochlear implant really a cyborg? And is that really the same thing of mapping the entire neuronal structure of the brain and then transferring one's sentient consciousness to a digital computer? Really? I don't know so much about that. But that's what the point of today's stream is. Again, I'm going to shut it off there. We really want to get into some of the articles that we're going to be reading, and really not making any argument today. We're just going to go over, and I'm going to show you guys the current state of biological augmentation. And this is just what we know out in public. We have to assume that these government agencies, that these militaries around the world are already deep, especially the CCP, deep into research regarding this and tapping into, again, the central nervous system of people. And what could be more invasive, in the name of salvation, right? That they are literally moving into the most intimate state of the person. It is their brain. And so Neuralink for themselves showed the monkey playing Pong that was literally able to play Pong because he had the N1 implant. And it was showing you the capabilities of the N1 implant, and that a monkey could literally play Pong on a TV without any controllers, only using his thought. And so the state of this technology is probably further than you would suspect. And at the same time, it's not anywhere near, they hope. But by 2030 and 2040, many of these people think that the majority of our species, 2040, generally speaking, whether it be Yuval Harari or some of these researchers at these universities, whether it be Max Moore or Natasha Vita-Moore, they believe by 2040, basically a fully biological person, man or woman, will probably become extinct because we're going to upgrade into human evolution as cyborgs. So that's what we're going to be diving into today, guys. Please smash that like. We're going to try to make it quick. I know Jay's got a stream here after this, so it's not going to be a long stream. We're really just trying to cover some ground and kind of introduce this topic for people who may not be as familiar with it. A few announcements, quick announcements. First one is shout out to all my kings out there that have maintained and stayed strong for No Nut November. For those of you who don't know, of course, this is November, and I did a stream with Dr. Mo on semen retention, and so I just wanted to give a special shout out to all the boys out there that are maintaining and holding strong. First announcement, though, I want to say part 2 of my Buddhism stream, the introduction to Buddhism and my introduction to world religion stuff, that is up on the website, along with 3 special documentaries, one on Chinese Buddhism, one on Zen Japanese Buddhism, one on Tibetan Vajrayana Buddhism. All that stuff is up at the website for members. And so if you are a website member, I want to thank you very much. And if you would like to become a website member, you can do so with this link right there. I also want to give a special shout out to our Logos Fitness members. We got a couple gentlemen who have signed up for our Logos Fitness membership. Our first meeting will be next Tuesday evening, where we're going to do we're going to hold each other accountable in regards to our fitness goals, our fitness progress. And so it's going to be a small localized community of people who are generally, obviously Christian, most likely Orthodox Christians, but a close group of people that we can hold each other accountable and move forward in our fitness goals. And then, of course, if you'd like to become a premium member, we have a meeting this Thursday at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time for all our premium members. You can sign up with that link right there. Also, if anybody would like to sign up for a one-on-one session, you can do so with this link here. And if anybody would like to sponsor a stream, you can also do that with this link right here. And special shout out to Daniel Kim, who signed up for, who is sponsoring a couple streams that we'll be getting into. The next sponsored stream I'm expecting to be this Friday, and we'll be diving into this book, Bowling Alone, The Collapse and Revival of American Community. So we'll be doing that probably Friday, and that is a sponsored stream. But anyways, without further ado, let's just get into today's topic. So the first thing I want to do, guys, is describe what exactly, here, let's go here. Okay, so this is Kevin Warwick, and I want to say a little bit about the Cyborg project. So Kevin Warwick is a English engineer, deputy vice chancellor of the research at Coventry University. He is known for his studies on direct interfaces between computer systems and the human nervous system, and has also done research concerning robotics. Now, if you come down here to the Project Cyborg, which is what I want to share with you guys, Project Cyborg, probably the most famous research undertaken by Warwick. Here, let me make this a little bit larger so you guys can also see it. I don't know if you can read it, but Project Cyborg, probably the most famous research undertaken by Warwick, and the origin of the name Captain Cyborg, given to him by the Register, is the set of experiments known as Project Cyborg, in which an array was implanted into his arm with the goal of him becoming a cyborg. The first stage of the Project Cyborg began on the 24th of August in 1998. Involved a simple RFID transmitter being implanted beneath Warwick's skin, which was used to control doors, lights, heaters, and other computer-controlled devices based on his proximity. He explained that the main purpose of this experiment was to test the limits of what the body would accept and how easy it would be to receive a meaningful signal from the microprocessor. The second stage of the research involved a more complex neural interface designed and built especially for the experiment by Dr. Mark Gasson and his team at the University of Reading. The device consisted of BrainGate sensor, a silicon square about 3 millimeters wide connected to the external gauntlet that housed supporting electronics. It was implanted under local anesthetic on the 14th of March 2002 at the Radcliffe Infirmary in Oxford, where it was interfaced directly into Warwick's nervous system via the median nerve in his left wrist. The microelectrode array was inserted, contained 100 electrodes, each with the width of a human hair, of which 25 could be accessed at any one time, whereas the nerve that was being monitored carries many times that number of signals. The experiment proved successful, and the output signals were detailed enough to enable a robotic arm developed by Warwick's colleague Dr. Peter Kybred to mimic the actions of Warwick's own arm. By means of the implant, Warwick's nervous system was connected to the internet at Columbia University, New York. From there, he was able to control the robot arm at the University of Reading and obtain feedback from sensors in the fingertips. He also successfully connected ultrasonic sensors on a baseball cap and experienced a form of extrasensory input. In a highly publicized extension of the experiment, a simpler array was implanted into the arm of Warwick's wife, with the ultimate aim of one day creating a form of telepathy or empathy using the internet to communicate the signal over huge distances. And I want to point that out right there. Isn't that so interesting? Again, I get the difference, at least in their minds, but this guy, Kevin Warwick, this major engineer, this researcher, a pioneer in nervous system interface with computers, not only did it to himself and proved successful, tapped into the median nerve in his left wrist, was able to then participate in experiments all the way in England, but he also did it for his wife, and his wife chose to do it so that they could experience telepathy or empathy using the internet. Now, call me old-fashioned, but remember, I got back to all brain, no heart regarding the cyborg and the transhumanist movement, generally speaking. I thought that's the point of the heart. I thought, again, people, when you develop deep, emotional relationships with people, you can form a sort of telepathy and empathy with people through our sort of biological hardware. But as you see, it's like they're wanting to recreate the human being using totally cybernetic technology. This experiment resulted in the first direct and purely electronic communication between the nervous system of two humans. Finally, the effect of the implant on Warwick's hand function was measured using the University of Southampton's hand assessment procedure. There was a fear that directly interfacing with the nervous system might cause some of a damage or interface, but no measurable side effect or any sign of rejection was encountered. In fact, it was observed that the nerve tissue grew around the electrode array enclosing the sensor. Now, so we're going to be talking about some of this stuff. I want to read this entire article to you guys. That the most famous real-life cyborgs, and this is not a joke. This is Neil Harbison. This is the guy that I talked to you guys about regarding the artist who is colorblind. And so and we'll read this, but you see this thing on his head right here? Yeah, that's literally rooted to his spine and his central nervous system. Don't know if I'm ready for that, but apparently it allows him to experience colors. And so we're going to go through all these types. These are living cyborgs. These are not science fiction. Every single example is somebody who is a living testament to the idea that they can, in fact, hook up technology into your central nervous system, and the impulses, the electrical impulses, I should say, not electronic, but the electrical stimulus, the electrical impulses of the brain can, in fact, be transmuted into these technologies. And so that's what we're going to be talking about. This is a man who has entirely prosthetic arm and legs that are tapped in. This is a man who has, again, a sort of we'll get it. We'll read all this stuff. This is an artist. You see he has an ear on his arm. This is also part of the development of various tissues. Again, actually, this artist here, let me show you. This artist he's actually Greek, and he was probably raised Orthodox. No longer that for sure, but his name's Stellark. And Stellark is an artist, and he is an artist whose work focuses on heavily extending the capabilities of the human body. As such, most of his pieces are centered on the concept that the human body is obsolete. Until 2007, he held the position of the Principal Research Fellow in the Performance Arts Digital Research at the unit at Nottingham Trent University in Nottingham, England. He is currently furthering his research at Curtin University in Western Australia. And so he, in fact, used, the third ear. So in 2007, Stellark used cell-cultivated ear surgery. Now, why did he use it? Because the cell-cultivated ear, what the cell cultivation does is it signifies that people, scientists, can, in a petri dish, they can take tissue and they can begin to grow it in a form and structure in which they want. And this has been done, for example, this was, I think, the first time that was done in the 1970s. You can look up a rat with a human ear on the back. And so they literally grew an ear on the back of a rat using pig tissue and intentionally grew the tissue to look just like a human ear. And so that's exactly what this is demonstrating here, is that he did that to his own arm to demonstrate the ability of of cell cultured ear of cell cultivation, basically what. And so that ear surgically attached to his left arm. His longtime collaborator, fellow Australian Nina Sellers, photographed this body modification on her piece Oblique Images from Stellark's Extra Ear Surgery, and that's exactly what you're looking at right there. And so this is something, again, that they can do, cell cultivation. They can intentionally use, so they can take tissue, they could take tissue from me, and they could intentionally grow an ear using my DNA and my tissue. They could put it on a pig, they could put it on the back of a rat, they could put it on his arm. It doesn't matter. And so we're going to be reading that article. Also, I want to get through this article, the story of Neuralink and Musk's AI brain chip company, because this kind of lays out the progression. Again, the N1 implant is what you need to know about Neuralink. The N1 implant is what they are interested in. So the N1 implant, they put this inside your brain, and this is why Neuralink is novel in regards to some of this technology, is that Elon Musk's goal is for it to be entirely under the skull. So a lot of the stuff, and you've probably seen videos of various monkeys that have participated in some of this research with Neuralink, where they have these huge things coming out of the top of their skull. Well, the goal and what they're doing with these N1 implants is they want the entire thing under your skull. And of course, Elon Musk has a robot that can do that just for you. And that's what this thing is right here. The robot will literally cut a piece of your skull open to insert it. We're going to read this article because it shows you the progression and how they've already done this in 2020. It showed that the chip was embedded in a pig named Gertrude, and that they could, in fact, track the firing of various neurons with the N1 implant. And so then it, obviously, one of the more recent ones in April of 2021, they showed that with the N1 implant, a monkey could play Pong on a screen. And so we're going to read this article as well. As I said, a cyborg, again, it is a being with both organic and ketonic body parts. Its term was first coined in 1960. Now, what's really interesting, if you go to the cyborg page on Wikipedia, then you go down here in the military. This is really interesting stuff, is how the military is so interested in these cyborg technologies. And so if I'll begin reading here, this is, again, just the cyborg page on Wikipedia and looking at how the military is interested. And if you listen to the WEF lecture that I told you guys, put in World Economic Forum, cyborg, 48-minute video from 2020, they'll tell you that the vast majority of their own, the people doing this research, is literally coming from the military, which, again, is that not too obvious, right? I mean, is obvious. It's not surprising. So military organizations research has recently focused on the utilization of cyborg animals for the purposes of a supposed tactical advantage. DARPA especially has put in a bunch of money into American and English universities in regards to studying this stuff. So DARPA has announced its interest in developing cyborg insects to transmit data from sensors implanted into the insects during a pupa stage. The insect's motion would be controlled by a micro-electromechanical system, MIMS. That is a micro-electromechanical system, MIMS, and could conceivably survey an environment or detect explosives and gas. Similarly, DARPA is developing a neural implant to remotely control the movement of sharks. The shark's unique senses would then be exploited to provide data feedback in relation to enemy ship movement and underwater explosives. In 2006, researchers at Cornell University invented a new surgical procedure to implant artificial structures into insects during the metamorphic development. The first insect cyborgs were moths with integrated electronics in their thorax, were demonstrated by the same researchers. The initial success of these techniques has resulted in increased research and the creation of a program called Hybrid Insects MIMS, again, micro-electronic mechanical systems. Its goal, according to DARPA's Microsystems Technology Office, is to develop tightly coupled machine insect interfaces by placing micromechanical systems inside the insects during early stages of metamorphosis. Very interesting. Guys, if you can, make sure to smash that like. would greatly appreciate all that. I don't think I posted the link to. Can somebody share the Streamlabs link? I would greatly appreciate that in the live chat. So if you would like to support today's stream, please super chat using the Streamlabs link if you could. The use of neural implants has recently been attempted with success on cockroaches. Surgically applied electrodes were put on the insect, which was remotely controlled by a human. Yes, you're hearing that right, and you were getting ready to get to the part where they've already done it with flying insects, beetles. A human can remotely control a beetle cyborg. We'll get to that in just a moment. Surgically applied electrodes were put on the insects, which was remotely controlled by a human. The results, although sometimes different, basically showed that the cockroach could be controlled by the impulses it received through the electrodes. DARPA is now funding the research because its obvious beneficial applications to the military and other areas. In 2009, the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineering, thank you so much, Dangerfield. Thank you, brother. I'm going to pin that. Really appreciate that. Okay, let's keep going here. Sorry about that, guys. In 2009, the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, IEEE, MIMS conference, again, Microelectronic Mechanical Systems conference in Italy, researchers demonstrated the first wireless flying beetle cyborg. Engineers at the University of California, Berkeley have pioneered the design of a remote-controlled beetle funded by DARPA High MIMS program. This was followed later that year by the demonstration of wireless control of a lift-assisted moth cyborg. So they've already created beetle cyborgs and moth cyborgs that they can control the flight of. Eventually, researchers plan to develop high MIMS for dragonflies, bees, rats, and pigeons. For the high MIMS cybernetic bug to be considered a success, it must fly at least 100 meters, that is 330 feet, from a starting point, guided via computer into a controlled landing within 5 meters of a specific endpoint. Once landed, the cybernetic bug must remain in place to demonstrate that it's the impulses sent by the computer that are making the particular insect move in one way or another. In 2020, an article in Science Robotics by researchers at the University of Washington reported a mechanically steerable wireless camera attached to beetles. Miniature cameras weighing 248 milligrams were attached to live beetles on the Tenebrionode genre Abelos and Elotus. The camera wirelessly stream video to a smartphone via Bluetooth for up to 6 hours, and the user could remotely steer the camera to achieve a bug's eye view. Okay, so that is just to show you where the state of the research is. So we're going to be looking at, again, human cyborgs, instances of human cyborgs, but where the frontier of this research is, and what I was talking about with the World Economic Forum, the example of the anorexic girl that they could stimulate her brain and make her want to eat, they're already using this technology to stimulate parts of the nervous system of insects, and can control their flight. Okay, now I talked to you guys about the Cyborg project. Here's the Cyborg Foundation, created in 2010 by cyborg activist artist Moon Ribas and Neil Harbison. Again, these are the Harbison here. This is Neil Harbison. This is the colorblind dude that implanted this sensor into his spine and central nervous system so that he could sense color. And then this is Moon Ribas. She's Spanish. She is a Spanish avant-garde artist and cyborg activist, best known for developing and implanting online seismic sensors in her feet that allow her to feel earthquakes through vibrations. Now, again, I'm no cyborg. Don't ever plan on being a cyborg, but I do find it interesting that out of all the things one could implant in oneself, Moon Ribas here, she implants seismic sensors in her feet that allow her to feel earthquakes through vibrations. Okay. Since 2007, international media have described her as the world's first cyborg woman or the world's first female cyborg artist. She is the co-founder of the Cyborg Foundation, an international organization that encourages humans to become cyborgs and promotes cyborgism as an art movement, and the co-founder of the Transspecies Society, an association that gives voice to people with non-human identities and offers the development of new senses and organs in community. Her choreography works are based on the exploration of new movements developed by the addition of new senses or sensory extensions to the dancer. Okay, so that's what, so we already have the Cyborg Foundation here, founded by these people. The foundation is a platform for the research, creation, and promotion of projects related to extending and creating new senses and perceptions by applying technology to the human body. The Cyborg Foundation was first housed in the Techno Campus Scientific Park in Barcelona and is currently based in New York City. It collaborates with several institutions, universities, and research centers all around the world. And so, we see here again, it's all about these new senses and perceptions. The idea, the cyborg, it's rooted within the concept of the human potential, development of human potential, and us sort of our evolutionary journey into the acquisition of more and more senses. Now, back in the 60s, this was more associated with like spiritual human potential and the development of telepathy and these sort of mystical perceptions and senses, but now it just moves straight into full front technological cyborg synthesis of these different technologies. Now, this is what I was talking about. This is the Why Humans Become Cyborgs, Davos 2020, World Economic Forum. I watched this today. You can check that out if you'd like. Here's a billionaire. So the Billionaire Club. Here's their article on the future of cyborgs. Again, using this Neil Harbison with his freaking antenna that's attached to his spine. Here is real life cyborg implanted. This is him.
My name is Neil Harbison, and I'm one of the founders of the Cyborg Foundation.
Yeah, we're not going to watch this because I don't want the video to be taken down because these are copyrighted. But and then here is stuff on Elon Musk Neuralink. Again, we're going to read the article. Here's we'll move this over here. Real life cyborgs today. We'll touch on that article as well. And then, of course, our good old friend Yuval Harari. Why is Yuval Harari famous? He's famous for this book called his best-selling Sapiens, which is describing the history of Homo sapiens. And Yuval Harari, I watched so many. So some of this stuff is really hard to watch because I've been the last like 3 days, I've been really diving into some of my transhumanist research and watching these long videos. And Yuval Harari, I've been really diving into a lot of his work and his videos regarding transhumanism and cyborgs and all this different stuff. And it's so funny when you look at him, how small his body is. So it's a little misleading within this photo, but if I go here and I put in, let's see, Yuval Harari, cyborgs, here we go, on transhumanism in the singularity. So I was diving into this one earlier. Look how small his body is. Look how little his legs are. My forearm, my biceps are definitely bigger than his thighs. And he's such a little bitty guy. And his big old head, it's like, again, what I talk about, the whole premise of the cyborg is sort of reducing man to the brain. And that's really all we are, is we are a brain. And this is him talking about, again, cell culturation and the intentional development of various body parts, prosthetics, all that different stuff. So it's amazing. And then you go and you read all the comments, and everybody's like, "Oh, Yuval Harari, we love you. You're a godsend. You're a prophet of the future." All this different stuff. Of course, you can have your opinion, but look at his little bitty body. I mean, it almost looks fake. He's got this little bitty body. and he's got this big old head, and it's like so indicative. It's like archetypal of what I talked about, the reduction of man to the brain. There's no development of his body. There's no physicality there. And I just point that not to mock him, not to be mean, but just to highlight this weird anti-physicality. It's all robotics and brain for these people. Very, very few of them, of the people I looked up, very few of these people have any sort of like physical presence. They're all so like scrawny. And of course, Yuval Harari is a vegan. Oh, go figure. So Yuval Harari talks about the age of the cyborg has begun and the consequences cannot be known. So he talks about, he compares cyborgs, and again, our blending of technology with biology, as the same thing as the agricultural movement, right? This was the same thing when we began to domesticate animals. We didn't know where that was going to go. That's basically the exact same thing as putting a microchip in your brain. It's the same thing. We don't know where it's going to go, but this is the next stage of human evolution, of human society. And so here's another article of his, The Dawn of Cyborgs, How Humans Will Turn Themselves into Gods, according to Yuval Harari. Historian says humanity is heading for an upgrade via biological manipulation of the creation of race or the creation race of cyborgs. And he's very straightforward that if you watched the video that I was talking about, this one here, I forget where it is in this video, but he talks about how basically he believes the biological human will be extinct by 2040. He doesn't believe there will not be human cyborgs because to participate in the upcoming society, that people will be getting their RFID chips. They will be getting these various implants to make them more human. That's something that Natasha Vita-Moore continually says, is that no, humanity plus transhumanism. This is all about making us more human. Really, I find that so interesting. So he's quite clear that he believes biological humans will be extinct by 2040. And 2040 is also the interesting date for Ray Kurzweil and his singularity hypothesis. And then here's another one. Humans will be godlike cyborgs within 200 years. The amalgamation of man and machine will be the biggest evolution in biology, claims Professor Yuval Noah Harari. Of course. Okay, so now let's just get back to real life examples while we still got some time, and read this article. Here, I'll share this article with you guys. This is the world's most famous real life cyborgs. We're going to go through this article real quick. Here, I just shared the link here in the live chat. The world's most famous real life cyborgs. In the future of humankind, brain implants could improve our memory. Implanted magnets and RFID chips implanted in our fingers could replace passwords and oh great, I won't have to type in that 9-letter passphrase with a number and a strange character. Oh, it's going to save me so much time. Exoskeletons could boost our strength and augment a whole range of human capabilities. And so think about this. If DARPA and the U.S. military is doing all these experiments on sharks, on insects, on pigeons, on rats, on bees, and they're able to control these animals with their brain implants to do exactly what they are being controlled to do, don't you realize this is moving towards the future of cyborg soldiers, of which then they are going to be centrally controlled themselves, right? The whole movement of the singularity, the whole movement towards the dystopian satanic inversion is central control. And so you can see that even the control of your central nervous system is going to be centrally controlled by the central nervous system of what I've called the cybernetic skeleton of Satan. That is the movement in which we're going. And so I don't think that possibility which I just laid out is improbable. That if the military is interested in cyborg insects for military purposes, what they're interested in is using exoskeletons, brain implants into biological entities, which then are going to lose their personhood. They're going to lose the image of God. They're moving into this automated, satanic, transhumanist delusion of which they themselves are, again, losing that image of God. They aren't even their own person. They will be, in fact, controlled by the central system itself. Exoskeletons could boost our strength and augment a whole range of human capabilities, so it will never be more important to keep the features that make us human, such as empathy, creativity, or the ability for change. It is not easy to find the right balance between technology and being human, though. Here I enlisted the world's most famous real-life cyborgs who might show us positive examples of how to do it. Tiptoeing around human and machine parts. People imagine cyborgs usually as mean creatures combining some human and superhuman features in a robotic body. Movie characters such as the Terminator, Darth Vader, and Borgs in Star Trek come to mind, but you do not have to go as far as Star Wars to get in contact with cyborg-like features or characteristics. According to usual definition, a cyborg combines organic and mechanic body parts. Yet some scientists stretch this understanding. They include people with cochlear implants, cardiac pacemakers, and even contact lenses. That's what I love. They do this every single. See, you cannot. Every time I get into the cyborgs or the transhumanist stuff, these advocates, they always go to the cochlear implants and glasses or contact lenses. Well, we're already cyborgs. You can't be against cyborgs. You got glasses on. Your grandfather has a cochlear implant. Don't you know he's a... bro, I think there's lines of distinction here. I think we can agree that in a way we have developed technologies, i.e., eyeglasses, contacts, or cochlear implants that do aid in the absence of various functions, biological functions. Your eyes don't work the way they used to. Your ears don't work the way they used to. There are then technologies that can re-stimulate those senses so you can acquire the use of those of their full potential. That is not the same thing as some of the research that they're doing. People who have all their abilities, now they're acting out, again, like the moon Rebus chick. Seismic sensors in the bottom of her feet. What the hell is that for? You can sense earthquakes around the world in your feet. And what? What does that have anything to do? Again, that's not the same thing, but they consider it the same thing. You'll see that. Again, I said it from the beginning. You see it in every freaking thing. It's the cochlear implants, and whether it's contact lenses or it's glasses, we're already cyborgs. In a way, it is valid. The human body is augmented with technology, and the two works together to improve human capabilities. As technological innovations in the field of medicine and healthcare multiply day by day, it will be more and more usual, to augment our bodies with the help of machines. It makes us faster, stronger, and more sensitive to the environment. Yeah, I think my biological equipment makes me as sensitive to the environment as possible. Okay, so I'm not interested myself. This means that the boundaries of humanness are stretching, raising serious ethical questions. Here I introduce you real-life cyborgs who show us the current boundaries of the coexistence of man and machine in one person, and they might also mark the way of how to find a balance between the two. Oh, is that right? And here we go. Here's our famous antenna man, Neil Harbison. With an antenna implanted into his head, he looks like a giant ant led from behind by a piece of bread on a stick. Coupled with his light mop haircut, he looks like the main character would in Wes Anderson's sci-fi he ever directed one. Harbison is actually an artist born with acromatopsia? I don't know. Acromatopsia? Or extreme color blindness, meaning he could only see in black and white. At first, he received his specialized electronic eye, his eyeborg, to be able to render perceived colors as sounds on the musical scale. He is capable of experiencing colors beyond the scope of normal human perception. Amy Winehouse is red and pink, while ringtones are green. Harbison has been living as a cyborg for more than 10 years. He believes that humans have a duty to use technology to transcend themselves and that it will happen in the future. It will start with a third eye on the back of the head or an implanted sensor indicating whether there is a car behind you. No, thank you. Here is Dr. Kevin Warwick, again, the guy that I already told you about with the experiment hooking into his central nervous system along with his wife and being able to activate robotic arms over in England from the United States. He has been known as Captain Cyborg and teaches at the University of Reading as a cybernetics professor. Warwick has experimented with different electronic implants since 1998, such as installing a microchip in his arm which lets him operate lights, heaters, and computers remotely. As dedicated as he is, Warwick also gave an implant to his wife so that when someone grasped her hand, the man was able to experience the same sensation in his. It is jaw-dropping and awkwardly scary at the same time. He is the founder of the Project Cyborg, using himself as the guinea pig on a mission to become the world's most complete cyborg. Beyond his work on himself, he involved in AI research. He faced serious criticism in 2014 over claims that the supercomputer called Eugene Gustman passed the milestone, the Turing test for artificial intelligence. There you go. And see, he's able to control these things with his central nervous system, like that robotic hand. Jesse Sullivan. Sullivan worked as an electrical linesman when in May of 2001, he suffered a life-threatening accident. He was electrocuted so severely that both of his arms needed to be amputated. This, however, led to him to become the world's first bionic man. The Rehabilitation Institute of Chicago offered him to replace his arms with robotic prosthetics, which opportunity he gladly took. He was fitted with a bionic limb connected through a nerve muscle grafting. He has control over his limb with his mind. When he thinks about lifting an arm, for example, certain muscles in his chest contract instead of muscles in the original arm, and the prosthetic replacement interprets this contraction as an instruction to move in a certain way. Moreover, he can also feel temperature as well as much pressure that he applies to a grip. Now, here's him moving these things. You can see it. So that is tapped into, again, his central nervous system. And so through the electrical impulses of his brain shooting down his central nervous system through all his nerves, he can then control these robotic technologies. Okay. Next one. Nigel Auckland. He worked as a precious metals smelter until his accident at his workplace involving an industrial blender. This led to a severe crush injury of his right forearm. He underwent 6 months of operations and infections before deciding to have a below-elbow amputation. Over the years, he tried several prosthetic types, but finally, he received a bionic hand. With the help, he can independently move to grip the delicate objects. He controls the arm through muscle movements in his remaining forearm. The range of movements is truly extraordinary. He can independently move each of his fingers to grip delicate objects or even pour a liquid into a glass. Jerry Jalava, the Finnish programmer, had a terrible motorcycle accident when he lost his left ring finger. It was just a week after he had bought his new motorbike that he accidentally hit a deer. Right after it happened, he lit a cigarette when he realized that he misses the upper half of his finger. Then he decided against a traditional prosthesis, but rather went for something useful. A 2 gigabyte USB port was embedded into his prosthetic. It doesn't upload any information directly into his brain, though. He is the perfect example of how you don't need to be a robotics mastermind to become a cyborg. Oh, what a good one. Cameron Clapp. Until his life-changing accident, Cameron lived the life of the California teens. He loved to surf, skateboard, and hang out with friends. He was 15 when he wandered over some railroad tracks near their house and passed out after drinking with his brother, moved by the 9/11 tragedy of what happened around that time. When the train passed, he unfortunately lost both of his legs plus an arm. He got fitted with a couple of prosthetic legs controlled by his brain with the help of a microprocessor. Since then, he has become an athlete and an amputee activist. His advice to struggling patients: surround yourself with good people, good doctors, therapists, family, and friends. Set reachable goals, work hard, and maintain a good attitude. Professor Steve Mann. The Canadian tech-crazy professor designed a headset that is outfitted with a number of small computers, and through it, he can record and play video and audio. He was one of the, if not the first cyborgs in the world. Man definitely experimented first with wearable computing in high school in the 70s. At MIT, he literally bristled with equipment, wearing 80 pounds of computing equipment to class. Man was allegedly also the victim of the world's first cybernetic hate crime. In 2012, he was at McDonald's restaurant in Paris with his family when 3 different McDonald's employees attempted to forcibly remove his digital eyeglass from his head. Claudia Mitchell. Claudia Mitchell is the first woman to have a bionic arm, and just as in the majority of the listed cases, her transformation into a cyborg life was also due to an accident. Although she spent 4 years in the Marine Corps, she did not lose her arm during military service, but in a motorcycle accident. She lost her left arm completely. She told several newspapers that she used to peel bananas using both feet and one hand before she received her bionic arm. The robotic limb comes from the Rehabilitation Institute in Chicago, just as in the case of Jesse Sullivan, and was developed for $3 million. She cried when she first peeled a banana one-handed. Stelios Arkadio. He is also known as Stellark. That's that Greek artist that I told you about who lives in Australia. He is a performance artist who believes that the human body is obsolete. Obsolete, he says. To prove this, he has had an artificially created ear surgically attached to his left arm. In another show, he hooked up electrodes to his body to allow people to control his muscles through the web. He has his particular views how humans should look at technology and the symbiosis of the two. In an interview, he said that quote, we shouldn't have Frankensteinian fear of incorporating technology into the body, and we shouldn't consider our relationship to technology in a Faustian way, that we're somewhere selling our soul because we're using these forbidden energies. My attitude is that technology is, and always has been, an appendage of the body. Well, that's great that that's your belief, bub. So there's a handful of there. We also, I'll name a few here. We didn't even get into the robotic eye guy. So here's the Luke arm. So there's the guy with the antenna. We're not even going to, we've already talked about him. The Luke arm. Here, let me zoom in for you guys. The Luke arm, named after Luke Skywalker, is a highly advanced prosthetic that lends the wearer a sense of touch. A specialized motor can provide feedback to mimic the resistance offered by various physical objects. Users can feel that a pillow offers less resistance than a brick. With the help of funding from the Defense Advanced Research Project Agency, DARPA, the finished design received U.S. Food and Drug Administration approval in 2014. Of course they did. Of course they did. Electronic sensors receive signals from the wearer's muscles that the device then translate into physical movement. The wearer can manipulate multiple joints at once through switches that can be controlled with his or her feet. The first commercially available Luke arm became available to a small group of military amputees in the late 2016. Amputees can now buy the prosthetic through their physicians, but the device is rumored to cost around $100,000. And so, am I against military amputees or various people having bionic limbs? I mean, at this point, no. I mean, if that's their choice, if I had my arm cut off or I didn't have a leg, would I want a prosthetic appendage? Probably. But what we're seeing here is the synthesis of technological prosthetics, again, fusing into the central nervous system. And so no matter how you feel about somebody who loses an arm or whatnot, the point gets back to what I was talking about earlier with the military projects and the cyborg insects and animals, is that where the real leading edge of this research isn't that they can hook up an arm or a leg to your central nervous system. This stuff was known about 20 years ago. What they know now in the more recent research is that they can put these implants into somebody's brain as long as they know the right centers to send signals and impulses to. They can begin to control the sensations and impulses of people. Getting back again to the World Economic Forum, that video that I talked about at the beginning, they talked, okay, the girl that has anorexia. Well, then they said, well, and this can also, if somebody's obese and they need to stop eating, well, then the doctor can basically shut down their ability to eat. That's the thing. Why would the doctor have the authority, even if the guy is fat and obese? You know, he's killing himself. But we're going to move into a future where a doctor can decide to shut down that guy's desire or appetite for food. That's where this stuff gets really, really scary, and its ability to actually control. Because say they start hooking up these things to your body. I mean, you're still going to have a sense of sentient experience within the body, even though it's hooked up to these sensors, and then somebody can tap into the electrodes and stimulate you in a certain way. That's where it gets a little bit crazier. Okay, here's artificial vision. This is what I wanted to show you guys about. In his 20s, Jens Newman was involved in 2 separate accidents that shot metal shards into his eyes, causing him to lose his vision. In 2002, at the age of 37, Naumann participated in a clinical trial performed at the Lisbon-based institute in which a television camera was connected straight to his brain, bypassing his faulty eyes. Dots of light combined to form shapes and outlines of the world around him, giving him this kind of dot matrix type vision. The system enabled him to see Christmas lights outlining his home in Canada that year. Unfortunately, the system failed only after a couple of weeks, and when William Dobell, the original inventor of the technology, passed away in 2004, he left behind him almost no documentation, leaving technicians no instructions for how to repair Naumann's system. In 2010, Naumann had the system surgically removed, rendering him completely blind once again. Mind-controlled bionic leg. A mind-controlled bionic leg was first used in 2012 by Zach Walter, a software engineer from Seattle whose leg was amputated above the knee in 2009. The technology that translates brain signals into physical movement, called targeted muscle reinnervation, TMR, was first created in 2003 for upper limb prosthetics. But Walter's prosthetic was revolutionary because it was the first leg prosthetic to use it. In 2012, Zach Walter climbed the 2,100 steps of the Willis Tower in Chicago with the help of his prosthetic leg. It took him 53 minutes and 9 seconds. The bionic hand. We've already talked about the bionic hand. The last one, we'll skip that one. This is the one that I wanted to show you guys, the iBorg project. Toronto-based filmmaker Rob Spence decided to replace his missing right eye with a prosthetic equipped with a wirelessly transmitting video camera. Thanks to a partnership with RF Wireless Design Company and a group of electrical engineers, Spence created a prosthetic eye shell that could house enough electronics in such a small confined space. The camera can record up to 30 minutes of footage before depleting the battery. Spence used footage captured by his eye prosthetic in a documentary called Deus Ex, the iBorg documentary. And so here I'll just play a quick little thing so you can see. So here you can see at one point it shows what it's. Stop. What it was like for him to record the video. Where was that? Oh, well, you guys can look it up if you want. Shout out to Father Deacon. I just saw he's in the chat. Shout out to Father Deacon. We got to do a stream here soon, brother. He says, I've always been a fan of mind control apologetics. God bless you guys. Please smash that like for everybody watching if you've enjoyed this topic and this stream. Now I want to get to, in the time remaining, I want to read this article on Elon Musk and Neuralink, because Neuralink is one of the first public companies to really be at the front edge of all these cyborg research, of the brain-computer interface research. And the N1 implant has showed considerable advancement under Neuralink and some of their research. And so we're going to dive into this article and probably then call it quits there. And so if you can, smash that like, and if you would appreciate, or I would appreciate, send in a super chat. Next, okay. Elon Musk, the story of Neuralink. Elon Musk AI brain chip company where he had twins with the top executive. Now everybody knows that Elon Musk is African, and no, I'm just kidding. So Elon Musk, he has many women that he's impregnated with, many different children, and no different here with Neuralink. He impregnated, what was her name? Oh yeah, Siobhan Zillis. Anyways, let's read the article. Neuralink is one of Elon Musk's strange futuristic companies. It's developing neural interface technology, aka putting microchips in people's brains. The technology could help study and treat neurological disorders. And this is why, people, again, very excited about Elon Musk taking over Twitter. My belief is why it would be advantageous for Elon Musk to take over Twitter is that if he did open it up for free speech, if he did allow more freedom of expression on that platform, it would only aid in him documenting the conversations and the general global hive mind, even within various languages, various cultures. And so that would only aid in his larger project. And so I think that Twitter, really what it's going to be is a sort of Trojan horse and trying to document the global hive mind and what people are interested, care about, talk about, and so on. Elon Musk, okay. Elon Musk, known for his high-profile companies like Tesla and SpaceX, but the billionaire also has a handful of unusual ventures. He says he started one of them to achieve symbiosis between the human brain and artificial intelligence. Meanwhile, of course, you guys know when he went on to Joe Rogan, he said the biggest threat to humanity is artificial intelligence and population collapse due to not enough people. So he gives he's a gaslighter, but yeah, he tells us that the scariest thing in the future is sentient artificial intelligence. And then I think Tesla AI is like one of the leading artificial intelligences in the world right now. Meanwhile, he also has a robot that will cut your skull open and implant your N1 chip. Neuralink is Musk's neural interface technology company. It's developing a device that would be embedded in a person's brain where it could record brain activity and potentially stimulate. That's the whole point of it. If you, again, look into the military research, the whole point is learning how to stimulate central nervous systems of various organisms to control them. Musk has compared the technology to a Fitbit in your skull. Oh my God. Musk has also had twins with top Neuralink executive Siobhan Zillis. Insider was first to report. While Musk likes to talk up his futuristic vision for the technology, the tech has some potential near-term medical applications. Here's everything you need to know about Neuralink. Neuralink was founded under the radar in 2016. Neuralink first became publicly known in 2017 when the Wall Street Journal reported on its existence. The company's first major public outing didn't come until 2019, when Elon Musk and other members of the Neuralink executive team showed off their tech in a live-streamed presentation. Neuralink is developing two bits of equipment. The first is a chip that would be implanted in a person's skull with electrodes fanning out into their brain. So this is what it would look like. Again, the N1 implant. Whenever you hear N1 implant, that's, again, the technology coming out of Neuralink. The chip sits behind the ear while the electrodes are threaded into the brain. And that's why mapping the brain is so important for all this technology, because it's the mapping of the brain which is going to allow them to stimulate those centers and then basically see what happens. The chip Neuralink is developing is about the size of a coin and would be embedded in a person's skull. From the chip, an array of tiny wires, each roughly 20 times thinner than a human hair, fan out into the patient's brain. The wires are equipped with 1,024 electrodes, which are able to monitor brain activity and theoretically electrically stimulate the brain. And then, again, they tape every time it comes to stimulate the brain, which, again, that's all the research they're interested in. Well, potentially, theoretically, maybe we'll stimulate the brain. This data is transmitted wirelessly via the chip to computers where it can be studied by researchers. The second is a robot that could automatically implant the chip. This is the Tesla doctor. Yeah, here you go to Neuralink. Yeah, I'll sign up for the research. Okay, we're gonna now cut your skull open. Who's my doctor? This is Neuralink surgical robot. This is the doctor. This is who's getting ready to implant. And again, you moving back to all brain, no heart. They're like, well, this is way more accurate. The AI and artificial intelligence is going to be way more accurate. It's not going to make human mistakes. It's more precise. Okay. The robot would work by using a stiff needle to punch the flexible wires emanating from a Neuralink chip into a person's brain, a bit like a sewing machine. Neuralink released a video showing the robot in 2001. Again, we're just going to watch a little bit here. Okay, I'm pretty sure that's a dude on hormones with a shirt that says, "I'm not a robot." And that's another thing, and we'll get into that later, but the transgender and the multiplicity of genders, trans species, is absolutely one of the grounding it's part of the grounding foundational presuppositions of transhumanism. That will be a whole nother stream I'll do in the future. I'm still working on some of that research, but totally consistent with everything I'm finding. Anyways, moving on. So that's the chip. That's all the fibers. Oh, thank you, Jamie. I appreciate that, buddy. There you go. There's my neurosurgeon right there. Okay. Anyways, we're done there. So Musk has claimed the machine could make implanting Neuralink's electrodes as easy as LASIK eye surgery. Oh, wow. While this is a bold claim, neuroscientists previously told Insider in 2019 that the machine has some very promising features. Professor Andrew Hires highlighted a feature which would automatically adjust the needle to compensate for the movement of a patient's brain, as the brain moves during surgery along with a person's breathing and heartbeat. The robot, as it currently stands, is 8 feet tall, and while Neuralink is developing its underlying technology, its design was crafted by Woke Studios. No, you can't make this stuff up, guys. It's literally like just an archetypal story just writing itself out. Yes, it's created by Woke Studios. In 2020, Neuralink showed off one of its chips embedded in a pig named Gertrude. What that's showing behind you, the Neuralink device in Gertrude's brain transmitted live data during the demo as she snuffled around. And what she did is she was like in her little cage there, and what they demonstrated is that the N1 implant was able to demonstrate the neural firing in her brain. The demonstration was proof of concept and showed how the chip was able to accurately predict the positioning of Gertrude's limbs when she was walking on a treadmill, as well as recording of neural activity when the pig snuffled about for food. Musk said the pig had been living with the chip embedded in her skull for 2 months. In terms of their technology, 1,024 channels is not that impressive these days, but the electronics to relay them wirelessly is state-of-the-art. And the robotic implantation is nice, said Professor Andrew Jackson, an expert in neural interfaces at Newcastle University. This is solid engineering, but mediocre neuroscience, he said. Jackson told Insider following the 2020 presentation that the wireless relay from the Neuralink chip could potentially have a big impact on the welfare of animal test subjects in science, as most neural interfaces currently in test on animals involve wires poking out through the skin. Even if the technology doesn't do anything more than we're able to do at the moment in terms of number of channels or whatever, just from a welfare aspect for the animals, I think if you could do experiments with something that doesn't involve wires coming through the skin, that's going to improve the welfare of animals, he said. Neuralink went a step further with its animal demos in April of 2021 when it showed off a monkey playing video games with its mind. Neuralink released a video of a macaque monkey named Pager playing video games such as Pong for banana smoothie rewards. Pager played the games using a joystick that was disconnected from the game's console, meaning he was controlling the cursor using brain signals as his arm moved. Here is a little clip of it. There's his banana smoothie.
By recording neural activity, as Pager uses the joystick to move a cursor, joystick out of habit. Because they wouldn't be able to increase the difficulty and see how well Pager can play with the Neuralink.
And that's using Neuralink. That's just his brain moving the cursor while he sucks on his banana smoothie.
As you can see, Pager is amazingly good.
Elon Musk likes to boast Neuralink can let monkeys control computers with their brain signals, but neuroscientists don't see this as a big deal. Elon Musk excitedly announced in 2019 presentation that the Neuralink had successfully implanted its chips into a monkey. Quote, a monkey has been able to control a computer with its brain, just FYI, he said, which appeared to take Neuralink president Max Hodak by surprise. Quote, I didn't realize we were running that result today, but there it goes, said Hodak. Musk reiterated the claim in February 21, 2 months ahead of the video demonstration. Neuroscientists speaking to Insider in 2019 said that while the claim might grab the attention of readers, they did not find it surprising or even particularly impressive. The monkey is not surfing the internet. The monkey is probably moving a cursor to move a little ball to try to match the target, said Professor Hires, an assistant professor of neurobiology at the University of California, said. Implanting primates with neural brain interfaces that let them control objects on screens has been done before. Professor Andrew Jackson at the University of Newcastle told Insider in 2021 that researchers first pioneered this kind of tech in 2002, but arguably its origins go all the way back to the 1960s. An animal rights group, filed complaint. In February 2022, animal rights group, the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, said it had submitted a complaint to the U.S. Department of Agriculture after obtaining more than 700 pages of documents relating to monkeys used in Neuralink research at the University of California, Davis, between 2017 and 2020. The group obtained the documents, which included veterinary records of necropsy reports via a public records request. It said they indicated 23 monkeys had experienced, quote, extreme suffering as a result of inadequate animal care and the highly invasive experimental head implants during the experiments. UC Davis spokesperson told Insider that during its research collaboration with Neuralink, research protocols were thoroughly reviewed and approved by the campus's Institutional Animal Care and Use Committee. The spokesperson said that the collaboration between Neuralink and UC Davis ended in 2020. We strive to provide the best possible care to animals in our charge. Animal research is strictly regulated at UC Davis, follows all applicable laws and regulations, including those of the U.S. Department of Agriculture, they said. Neuralink refused accusations from an animal rights group that its test monkeys were mistreated. At Neuralink, we are absolutely committed to working with animals in the most humane and ethical way possible, Neuralink said in a blog post. Neuralink said that it had kept its monkey at UC Davis while it built its own animal housing facility. While the facilities and care at UC Davis did not continue to meet federally mandated standards, we absolutely wanted to improve upon these standards as we transitioned animals to our in-house facilities, Neuralink said. It said it opened a 6,000 square foot vivarium for its monkeys and farm animals in 2020. It said its animals enclosures contain environmental enrichments, including pools, swings, and tree houses. Although none of the tech Neuralink has showcased so far has been particularly groundbreaking, neuroscientists are impressed with how well it's been able to bundle up existing technologies. All the technology that he has showed has already been developed in some way or form. Essentially, what they've done is just package it into a nice little form that then sends data wirelessly. Dr. Jackson Shepard, an associate professor of neurobiology at the University of Utah, told Insider following the company's 2020 demonstration. If you just watch this presentation, you would think that it's coming out of nowhere, that Musk is doing this magic. But in reality, he's really copied and pasted a lot of work for many, many labs that have been working on this, he added. Elon Musk said Neuralink hopes to start implanting its chips in humans in 2022, 2 years later than he'd originally envisioned. Ah, cool. Speaking to the Wall Street Journal CEO Council Summit on December 6, 2021, Musk and Neuralink hope to start human testing the following year, pending Food and Drug Administration approval. He repeated the claim on Twitter, progress will accelerate when we have devices in humans. Hard to have nuanced conversations with monkeys next year, Musk tweeted. This isn't the first time Musk has set a timeline for getting Neuralink's chips into humans. Musk said during an appearance on the Joe Rogan Experience podcast in May 2020 that Neuralink could be testing on human subjects within a year. He made the same claim during an interview on Clubhouse in February 2021. In 2019, Musk said the company hoped to get a chip into a human patient by the end of 2020. Experts voiced doubt about this timeline at the time. As part of safety testing, a neural interface device involves implanting it in an animal test subject, normally a primate, and leaving it there for an extended amount of time to test its longevity, as any chip would have to stay in a human brain for a lifetime. You can't accelerate that process. You just have to wait and see how long the electrodes last. And if the goal is for these to last decades, it's hard to imagine how you're going to be able to test this without waiting long periods of time to see how well the devices perform. Jacob Robinson, a neuroengineer at Rice University, told Stat News in 2019. Neuralink co-founder and president Max Hodak left the company in April 2021. In February 2022, he revealed he invested in a rival. Hodak announced in May 1st, 2021, that he'd left Neuralink a few weeks previously, tweeting that he remained a, quote, huge cheerleader for the company. In February 2022, Hodak published a blog post saying he'd been serving as an advisor to Synchron, a rival biotech company that beat Neuralink to human trials with its own neural interface technology. Hodak also announced he'd invested in Synchron and told Bloomberg in an email, I really don't want this to be constructed as a knock on Neuralink. I'm sure they will go get into humans soon too, Hodak told Bloomberg. In November of 2021, Musk had twins with Neuralink Director of Operations and Special Projects, Siobhan Zilis. Insider obtained court documents which showed Musk and Zilis had petitioned to change their children's names to have their father's last name and contain their mother's last name as part of their middle name. Zilis previously worked at Tesla as a project director on the company's autopilot and chip design teams and was on Forbes' 30 Under 30 list in 2015. Musk has 9 known children, I think that's up to 10 or 11 now, including his twins with Zilis. In the near term, a chip in someone's brain could help treat neurological disorders like Parkinson's. Improved neural interface technology like Neuralink's could help better study and treat severe neurological conditions such as Parkinson and Alzheimer's disease. Professor Andrew Heyer said another application could be allowing people to control robotic prostheses. Okay, the first application you can imagine is better mental control for a robotic arm or someone who's paralyzed. Heyer said in a 2019 interview with Insider, adding that the electrodes in a patient's brain could potentially reduce the sensation of touch, allowing the patient to exert finer motor control. Neuralink hinted its chip's first real-world application would be giving quadriplegic people the ability to control phones and laptops. Great. Elon Musk also says that in the long term, Neuralink's chip could be used to meld human consciousness with artificial intelligence, though experts are skeptical of this. Although Musk has touted the near-term applications of Neuralink, he has often links the company up with his fears about artificial intelligence. Musk has said that he thinks humanity will be able to achieve symbiosis with artificial intelligence using technology developed by Neuralink. Musk told artificial intelligence podcast host Lex Friedman in 2019 that Neuralink was, quote, intended to address the existential risk associated with digital superintelligence. Yeah, it's going to address the existential risk by fusing us with it. What? We will not be able to be smarter than a digital supercomputer, so therefore, if you cannot beat them, join them, Musk said. What in... Musk has made lots of fanciful claims about the enhanced abilities of Neuralink. could confer. In 2020, Musk said people would have this reply memories like a Black Mirror or telepathically summon their car. Experts have expressed doubts about these claims. Not to say that it won't happen, but I think that the underlying neuroscience is much more shaky. We understand much less about those processes that work in the brain. And just because we can predict the position of a pig's legs when it's walking on a treadmill, that doesn't then automatically mean that you'll be able to read thoughts, Professor Andrew Jackson said. In 2019, Andrew Hires said Musk's claims about merging with AI is where he goes off into aspirational fantasy land. No, it's not. It's actually, again, me reading this stuff and looking at the movers and shakers. He's not alone. The people who are really behind this stuff absolutely believe that. Musk also made dubious claims about medical applications of Neuralink's tech. At one point, he claimed that technology could solve autism. During an appearance on the Artificial Intelligence podcast with Lex Friedman in November of 2019, Elon Musk said Neuralink could in future solve a lot of brain-related diseases and named autism and schizophrenia as examples. Autism is classified as a developmental disorder, not a disease, and the World Health Organization describes schizophrenia as a mental disorder. One neuroscientist told Insider there are big ethical problems with the idea of performing brain surgery for anything other than essential treatment. Dr. Riley of the Imperial College London told Insider in 2019 that the notion of performing brain surgery on a healthy person is deeply troubling. To get any of these devices into your brain is very, very high-risk surgery, she said. People do it because they have severe limitations and there is a potential there to improve their life. Doing it for fun is not a great idea, she added. And that is that article. And that is going to conclude our stream on an overview on the current realities of biological augmentation. So this is not a fanciful joke. This is real life stuff. The technology is there. They are moving forward with it. And so whether you agree with it or not, I think this stream should at least brought you up to speed of where this stuff is. And we can only assume that this is much, much further along. In places like the CCP in China, again, I've said this before. I remember when I was in China, I went to Sun Yat-sen University, Zhongshan Dashui. There's probably about 80,000 students there on campus, ginormous campus. And I know that at the medical center that they were already, according to some of the students there at the university, experimenting with Crimea, or not Crimea, human animal hybrids. So that the CCP doesn't have the same ethical standards that the Western world does. And so given the nature of the globalist relationship with the CCP, I can only imagine that these brain interfaces, chimera, that's the word I'm looking for, chimera, that these chimeras were already being developed there in China. And so I would imagine that in places like China and some of these, billionaire research institutes, I guarantee you there's already people that have already been implanted with these implants. And just like the cyborg moth, just like the cyborg beetle, I guarantee you there's already been research to see the limits that they can then stimulate somebody's brain to actually control their movements. That somebody else can remotely control a biological technological hybrid, a cyborg. And I guarantee you that research has already been done. So anyways, that is tonight's stream. Please smash that like. And now I'm going to dive into these super chats real quick. I hope everybody enjoyed that, even though it's not the most heartwarming topic. And I got to tell you, doing my research on transhumanism and listening to a lot of the transhuman activists, not easy stuff. It's actually really irritating to sit there and listen to them. It's very, very, guys, I know Chimera was like 10 minutes ago. We already said it. Chimera, we got it. That was 10 minutes ago. Okay, next super chat comes from Nefer. Throws in $7.99, says, thank you for your invaluable work. Well, thank you so much, Nefer. I truly appreciate that. Next one comes from Mario M. Throws in $3.75 and says, love the stream topic and thanks for the awesome one-on-one last week. Well, shout out to you, Mario. God bless you, brother. Hope you're doing well and staying safe up north. Any resources you'd recommend for understanding the evolution of thinkers across history? Is the Copleston series still the go-to? Here's 5 Canadian shekels from Toronto. Well, thank you so much for your 5 Canadian shekels. If you're looking, I take it that you're interested in intellectual history. Intellectual history was, I would definitely recommend the Copleston series on the history of philosophy. It's very, very, very good. But when it comes to intellectual history, it depends on what you're really interested in. So, like if you're interested in metaphysics, are you interested, like usually intellectual history is associated with a topic, a particular topic that then is studied across time. So, Mario, I'm not sure if you're just looking for the general evolution of thinkers and the evolution of philosophy itself. I would absolutely recommend Copleston's. If you're looking for the evolution of metaphysics, that's going to really help you grasp the development of philosophy since René Descartes. You could get an introduction to metaphysics. I have that book somewhere. Let me see. This is a good one in regards to an introduction to metaphysics from Parmenides to Levinas. This would be a good one if you're interested in metaphysics. That's going to help you grasp the state of philosophy, because metaphysics is going to deal with how exactly all these things are tied together across the universal understanding of ontology and all this different stuff. So I would recommend this. I love Copleston. If you're just interested in intellectual history, it depends on like what your topic is, brother. If there was a specific topic, I might be able to help you out a bit. So it just depends on what topic you're interested in. But if you really want to know philosophy and have a great resource, I advocate for everybody to get Father Frederick Copleston's 11-part series on the history of philosophy. It's essential for everybody's library, I would argue. So thank you so much, Mario, and God bless you, brother. It was great to have a one-on-one conversation with you as well. Really enjoyed it. Next one comes from Simon the Amputee. Shout out to Simon the Amputee for $4.99. I met Cameron Clapp. He visited me in the hospital when I lost my legs. Oh, interesting. Simon the Amputee met Cameron Clapp. That was the Californian guy that was on the railroad, I believe. Let me double check. I'm pretty sure he was the one that lost his arm and both his legs. Cameron Clapp. Yep, he was the one from California who he lost his right arm and both his legs that night that he, I guess, passed out on the railroad tracks. God bless him. Hope he's doing well. And God bless Simon the Amputee, our great Orthodox brother. Keep on fighting, man. You inspire me. And I love following you online and everything that you're doing. God bless you, Simon. It was a pleasure to meet you over in Southern California. Definitely stay in touch, man. Thank you so much for the support. You're a continual supporter of the stream. Thank you, brother. Thank you very, very much. I know Dr. Mo really enjoyed meeting you as well. So God bless you, Simon. Thank you so much, brother. And again, for $4.99, he says, I met Cameron Clapp. Cameron Clapp is this guy right here who, again, lost his legs, his arm. So, Simon the Amputee says, I met Cameron Clapp. He visited me in the hospital when I lost my legs. Next one, last super chat comes from Josu Garza. Throws in $10 and says, glad I got to watch a live stream. Been busy lately. I was wondering what you think the interplay between the ecumenical movement and transhumanism will be. Will it be used to pacify the plebs, or will the deity eventually be a cyborg demon machine god? So Josu Garza, I have done a few streams talking about this topic. My general belief is that the ecumenical movement and transhumanism will be, obviously, in my worldview, I assume that you're Christian and where you're coming from. I view it as it's all leading towards the Antichrist. That is the singularity. The singularity is a sort of tapping into the centrally controlled technological cybernetic system, and that the Antichrist will be a man who is fully machine and fully man. He will be a full cyborg. He will be fully transhuman. And that's why then we're going to worship him as a god. I believe that the Antichrist will be hooked up to the internet. His central nervous system will be hooked up. And who knows the extent? I mean, if Dr. Kevin Warwick can tap into his own central nervous system using the median nerve in his left wrist, and he can implant an RFID, and that allows him to then hook up to the internet, and he can control bionic arms all the way across the Atlantic Ocean. Isn't it? And that's right now. That's already possible. Then it makes you think. Well, isn't it possible then that the Antichrist could be somebody who's hooked up, and he has sort of his central nervous system is that of the cybernetic system itself. Again, what I call the skeletal system of Satan. I think the cybernetic connection of the entire globe, especially with 5G satellites, is going to allow somebody to eventually tap into it, and that literally will be their extrasensory perception, will be the interconnectivity of the technology itself. So that's my personal opinion. I think that that's where all this stuff is going. Yeah, that's my general thought there, Josu Garza. So will it be used to pacify the plebs, or will a deity eventually be a cyborg demon machine god? I think it's more likely that the Antichrist will be a fully transhuman machine god, if you will, and that the plebs will be voluntarily tapping into that. The system's going, again, just like the vax passports, the system's going to continually advocate for us to willfully choose to then be tapped into this central hive mind, if you will, through various cybernetic technologies and even tapping into our own central nervous system. So I think it's less about pacifying the plebs. The plebs are already pacified. I mean, how can you pacify the plebs any more than the state that we're already in, you know? And so, yeah, I think that what's most likely going to happen is that the Antichrist will be the full fulfillment of this transhumanist cyborg humanity plus system, and that's why he's going to be worshipped as a god. So, anyways, that's my general take. Next super chat comes from Day Jire, throws in $7.99. Thank you so much, Day Jire. God bless you. Again, and thank you again, Josu Garza, for the $10. And then last super chat comes from Keenan Beats, throws in $10. Shout out to Keenan, guys. Give Keenan a special congratulations. He just got baptized and brought into the Orthodox Church. So I really, really appreciate everything that Keenan does, and God bless him in his journey. He is now part of the church. He is now welcome home. God bless you, Keenan, man. Really, really appreciate all your support. Appreciate all you do. Keep making your music, dude. You're extremely talented. Love everything you do. And we're here, man. This community, whatever community I'm part of, we all love you. Glory to God that you're brought into the church, that you just got baptized. Welcome home, and keep doing what you're doing, man. Keep doing what you're doing. Who knows where it's going to go. With that being said, guys, I'm going to hop off here. I know Jay Dyer and company is getting ready to take form. So guys, go check that out. God bless you all. Really appreciate all the super chats, all the support, all the likes. I will be back Wednesday with another stream, and I will see you all then. So until Wednesday, as always, God bless.